How's it going, guys? Shizukatz here on the Tressa's Collectibles channel, and today we're going to be bringing you our latest product opening for the most recently released set in English Weiss Schwarz, which is Saekano, How to Raise a Boring Girlfriend. So this is going to be Volume 1 for Saekano. Over in the JP side, there are currently 3 sets for Saekano, and we do have the second set, Saekano Flat, already announced to be coming up in the English edition of Weiss Schwarz. But today we're going to be opening up the first set with 2 copies of the booster box right here, and then we're going to have 1 of the Trial Deck Plus. So hopefully we're going to be able to pull some really cool cards out of these. Unfortunately, with the English version of Saekano, they are not going to have the signature cards that the JP side has, but the stamp cards do look really nice, and then of course you do have the chance to pull some of those coveted serial numbers. But before we get into our box opening, we of course, as usual, have to give a quick mention to our beautiful case topper playmats. You're getting 1 of these playmats in every sealed case, featuring some pretty nice art of our 5 main girls. And both myself and some of the other people that I've talked to about this mat, we really enjoy this like shadow pattern that we have on the mat. So here we have our 5 girls. We have in the middle, of course, our titular boring girlfriend, Kato Megumi, and then we have on the other sides, we have Michiru, we have Eriri, we have Best Girl Utaha, and we have Izumi. So a really, really nice mat. I really like the design of it, and yeah. And so you'll be getting 1 of these case topper playmats per sealed case. Now, without further ado, let's get right into our product opening with the first of our 2 products, which is going to be the Trial Deck Plus. All right, let's get right into it. So for those of you who don't know about the bottom of the Trial Deck box, this is actually, in my opinion, the easiest way to open up the box. You don't have to deal with any tape or anything like that. And you can go ahead and open it just like that. Just kind of undo the flap here. All right, so for our Trial Deck, as with every Trial Deck, it is a pre-constructed deck of 50 cards, and it is pretty much all set up for beginners to play right out of the box. It usually has a climax combo, some advantage engines, and a brainstorm, and things like that. And so there's also a few cards in here that if you are a more experienced player, you will want to actually have in your collection in order to potentially include in your fully optimized pre-constructed decks using cards from like the booster set. So let's go ahead and take a look at the contents of our Trial Deck. As usual, we do have the necessities for every new player, such as your paper playmat, as well as the quick guide showing you some of the details of Weiss Schwarz, some of the rules and things like that. So for new players, you can go ahead and give this a quick read and refresh yourself on all the rules of Weiss Schwarz. And there also should be some tips on how you can play your deck. And I believe those are on the back of the playmat usually. Or it might be just an advertisement in this one. No, we do have some actual tips on how to play your deck, as well as I believe there are some recommendations for some cards from the booster set that you can add to your deck as well over here in the bottom left corner. So yeah, everything that you need as a new player to get started in Weiss Schwarz. Now let's take a look at the pre-constructed deck. So one really cool thing about the Saekano Trial Decks is that the guaranteed SR foils actually come with textured foiling. So if we get a, I don't know how good of a look we can get here, but the SR Megumi that we do have on the front has this very beautiful floral foil pattern. All right, so let's go ahead and get into our cards. So as far as the Trial Deck goes, we believe it's 2 SPs per case, but we're not 100% sure. So don't quote me on that. Let's go ahead and get right into the Trial Deck though. So with our first card, we have the level 1 Megumi Climax combo. So she's a 1055, and she says that she cannot side attack, and when her battle opponent becomes reversed, if you have face-to-face in the climax area, which I believe is a gold bar, and you have 2 or more other game characters, you can draw up to 2 cards and discard a card. So it's not the most exciting level 1 climax combo, since it is not selective advantage, it's just drawing cards off the top, but it is a combo that allows you to get additional cards and could be pretty good for just maintaining hand advantage throughout your mid to late game. For our second guaranteed SR in the trial deck, we have the level 3 Utaha. And so this is a healer and also gains 1,000 per your game or novel characters on stage until the end of the turn. So if you play her into a full board, she does count herself, and that allows her to go up to a maximum of 14,500 power. And as for the central trait throughout the set, it is the game trait, as all of the members of or most of the members of the Saekano cast are part of the Dojin game creation circle, and so they are game trait, although there are some side traits such as novel and manga that will appear later throughout the set and actually do have some cards that specifically reference just those traits. But here we have, for our second SR, we do have the Utaha, who does mention the novel trait. And I believe, as far as the importance of novel trait, I believe her manager is a novel trait character and not a game character. So we'll have to check up on that later. So moving into the other cards in the trial deck. So this is a green and red trial deck, just 2 colors, of course. And for our first card, we have the Ariri, level 0. She has a front 500 effect and also has an ability where when your climax is placed on the climax area, you can choose one of your characters to give it a 1,000 point boost until the end of the turn. This can be a really nice card in combination with your level 1 combo, since this does need to get reverses. Additionally, if you're playing any level 1 combos that do need reverses, this could be a potentially good card to play as part of your back row suite in order to give that extra power. Next up, we have 2 copies of the Ariri Drop Search. So this is just a very basic on-play, pay 1, discard 1, and search your deck for a game character and add it to your hand. But it is worth noting that as far as level 0 drop searches go, I believe this is actually the only one available in set 1. The other drop search type profile that is played in Saekano is a level 0 yellow Ariri that activates when she gets reversed, and then she gets to drop search but also go to memory. So that's another very popular profile, but if you want some on-demand search during your main phase and you don't want to wait for a character to have to attack and then get reversed, then you can go ahead and try running this card. We have 2 copies of the 1-0 Ariri. On play, she gives one of your game characters 1,500 power. Again, a nice way to secure your reverses, especially with important reverses such as your level 1 combo. And then we have the other copies of the Megumi level 1. This deck only come with 3 copies. Or I think 1 copy at the back had a chance to become foil as well, potentially, as the cards at the back are usually the ones that... oh yeah, actually, I believe this level 1 combo has a chance to come triple R, and if I remember correctly, the triple R arts in this particular trial deck are the swimsuit arts, so hopefully we can pull one of those. Those look really nice. Here we have the Tomoya 1-0 Vanilla, just 5,500 power, but he does have a card that interacts with him, so we'll come back to that later. We have 2 copies of the level 2 Tomoya Counter, which is just a 3k backup. 2 copies of the Megumi Level Assist, who also has Pay 2 and Rest Her. You can look at up to 2 cards from the top of your deck, choose up to one of them to add to your hand, put the rest into your waiting room. And this is able to grab both events and climaxes, in addition to characters. So just keep that in mind if you're using this card. You can potentially use it to try to dig for some important climax pieces for your endgame. And we have 2 copies of the Ariri on attack. Ariri 2-1, on attack, she gains X power until end of turn, where X is equal to the number of your other game characters times 1,000. This is a pretty common profile that we see in a lot of trial decks, just as a way to get really big offensive numbers at a level 2 game. And yeah, just a pretty solid card overall. And then we have, here's our first copy of the level 3 Ariri. She has a top check X ability on play, allowing you to dig further through your deck. And then also during her battle, the opponent cannot play backups from their hand. So this is actually a really notable card for being like basically the only way to dig through a lot of cards from the top of your deck in the late game. And so for that reason, this is a card that potentially you will see in more complete decks of Saekano in order to just get that more dig, to try to get your late game pieces. All right, and for our climaxes, first we have our 4 copies of the Gold Bar Climax that goes with the level 1 Megumi. And then we have 2 copies of the Ariri +2 Soul. And obviously this is just an empty climax. You usually do see empty +2 souls in a lot of these trial decks. So now, with green out of the way, we have our going into our red cards. First, we have the level 0 Megumi. This is the one that bonds to the Tomoya, and then it also gives all copies of the Tomoya an extra 1,000 power. So if you have one bonder, you grab the Tomoya, and he's a pretty solid 6,500 power. You could potentially have this in front of the level 0 Aerie as well, hitting a pretty respectable 7,000 power, both on offense and on defense. And it's just a nice way to get a bit of easy advantage out of that bond ability. Next up, we have the level 0 Megumi. So this is the card that could potentially come as a signed in this particular trial decks. Or not a sign, but a stamp. It can come SP. And so this is a level 0 bomb, as well as an on reverse coin flip. So when she's reversed, you reveal the top card of your deck, and if that card is level 2 or higher, including events, you get to return her back to your hand to potentially reuse her again on a future turn. So it's not the most exciting card. The reusability is really nice and potential to get a +1. But as far as the actual quality of the plus you're getting, because it is just kind of just putting itself back into your hand, it's not exactly the greatest quality plus, if that makes sense. And so because there's only one copy here, all of the cards that have a potential to come as a foil we'll have one copy of each of those cards at the very back of the trial deck. So once we get to the back, hopefully we'll see if we pull any of those nice foil cards. Okay, next up we have 4 copies of the Megumi Brainstorm. She is, of course, a draw Brainstorm, but because this one's pretty old, she is only a draw Brainstorm for 4 instead of the more recent ones that are draw Brainstorms for 5. Additionally, her other ability gives your other character in the front row center slot Hand Encore. That can be really useful for bringing back some pretty high value cards that you want to reuse on future turns. Things like your level 1 Climax combo, things like these big offensive attackers like the level 2 Aerie. There are some really good targets, of course, in the booster set as well that even though this is just a draw Brainstorm, you could get a lot of really nice value out of using this Hand Encore ability. Okay, next we have 4 copies of the level 0 Utaha. If you have 1 or less other characters on stage, she becomes a 4K beater. Pretty nice, solid beater if you're looking for just a cheap 4K attacking option in the early game. And we have 2 copies of the Utaha level 1. She is a drop assassin, gaining 500 power times the number of your game or novel characters until the end of the turn. So this potentially allows her to go up to 7,500 attacker. This isn't a great encore target with the Megumi in the same way as the Aerie level 2 is, because this one gains power every time she attacks, even on future turns, whereas the Utaha, she only gains the power on play. Up next, we have 2 copies of Utaha 2-1. This is just a 2-1 Hand Encore. Doesn't have any special abilities, just a Hand Encore profile. And then we have 2 copies of Waiting in Vain event. This is a salvage 2 and then discard 1 card. So this could be a really useful card if you're just looking to get some hand fix in the mid to late game. It's just a very... It's not the most exciting card, but it definitely gets the job done if you're looking for some specific cards out of your waiting room. And then for our last 2 climaxes, we have 2 copies of this Vanilla Gate Climax. This is a card that actually, in JP, I do have an Utaha waifu deck, although it's not really updated. But this is one of the cards that I ran in my deck just because I wanted the Empty Gate Climax, and I do think the art looks really nice. All right, now we get into the back of the deck where we potentially have a foil card. So first we have our last copy of the 1-0 Megumi combo. We have the second copy of the Aerie Top Check X. The second copy of the Utaha level 3. And then for our last card, unfortunately did not pull a stamp out of our trial deck, but we do have the second copy of the level 0 Megumi Bomb. So there we go for the Saekano trial deck. Again, it has some pretty great profiles that just happen to be kind of missing, or like there just aren't cards that quite fill the exact same niche from the booster set, things like the level 3 Aerie. So definitely look out for some of these cards, especially like, so things like the level 3 Aerie, like the level 0 Drop Search that you might want to include in your deck. So be sure to look out for those. And of course, let's get one last look at these trial deck SRs with those beautiful floral patterns. I remember the first time I saw these in JP, because in JP they also do have these really beautiful patterns. I was really surprised, and I thought that it was a triple R, actually, when I was going through like my friend's deck, and he had this level 3 Aerie, or not level 3 Aerie, or level 3 Utaha. But yeah, there we go. That concludes our trial deck opening, and now let's get right into our first booster box. All right, let's get into box number 1. So obviously, with Saekano being as old of a set as it is at this point, a lot of the cards in the set are going to be pretty outdated by modern standards, but there are a lot of really, really good cards within the first set that are going to maintain their usefulness throughout future Saekano releases. So I'm going to make sure to note those for you guys so you know what to expect from the future sets and what cards you should be saving up. So, as far as the box topper promos, there are 5 potential promos that you can get in every box. In this box, we got the level 0 Aerie. When she's placed on hand, she gets plus 1500 power, and when she attacks, you can discard 1 card to choose one of your other game characters and bounce it back to your hand. So, this is a way that you could potentially reuse some of the on-play abilities, or reuse like important cards like a Climax combo by discarding a card, bouncing it back to your hand. It's more of a conversion rather than a plus, because you do have to discard a card in order to activate the ability. Now, as far as which box topper promos are preferred to pull, the ones that are typically going to maintain the best usefulness throughout their lifespan as future sets roll in are going to be the level 2 Kato PR and the level 1 Utaha. So if we pull one of those in our second box, I'll be sure to take note of that. Now, as far as the SP ratios within the set, we're looking at an expected SP ratio of 3 SPs per sealed case. And hopefully we can pull one out of these 2 boxes so we can show off those lovely, lovely stamps. Now then, let's get right into our first pack. Okay, so one big central theme about many of the cards in Saekano is their use of memory. So they're going to be cards that have experience requirements, such as, or not experience requirements, memory requirements like recollection, having a specific number of cards in memory, or having specific events in memory, things like that. So we'll be sure to take note of some of those cards as we go through them. Okay, take a look at some of our commons. We have level 0 Mitru Bottom Deck Bomb. As I'm sure a lot of you guys are aware, bottom deck bombs are pretty powerful in the metagame. If you've been keeping track of any of our recent deck profiles, we've really been highlighting these bottom deck bomb or removal bomb in general profiles a lot. So clock bomb and stock bomb as well. We have a 2/2 Izumi Hand Encore. This could be a potentially useful card if you're playing a standby deck, as she is a 10k Hand Encore. We have our first Climax. And then for our uncoms, here we have a very interesting level 1 event. This card really doesn't see a lot of play, but in the times where it does see play, it definitely is very, very interesting card. So this card says that you choose 1 card in your clock and then put it into level, so you're essentially taking 6 damage. But if you do, you get to salvage 3 characters, and then salvage a Climax, and then stock 3 characters from your waiting room. So it kind of skips ahead 1 turn in terms of your damage and your card economy by allowing you to get a bunch of cards and a Climax and a bunch of stock. But in exchange, you're not dealing any extra damage to your opponent. So it's kind of like you skipped ahead 1 turn, but your opponent didn't. So this could be a pretty interesting card if you want to play some higher level profiles earlier than intended, as well as getting some specific cards into your hand that you might be missing. But it comes at a pretty big cost, and so kind of a reason that this card doesn't see a whole lot of play. But when it does, definitely a very exciting card to watch. For our first rare, we have the 2/1 Utaha. She is an anti-change backup. When you have 4 or more game or novel characters on board, you can pay 2 extra in addition to the 1 normal cost that comes with the counter, and then you get to anti-change one of your opponent's characters. So this is probably the most playable counter out of the booster set. Of course, there is going to be a refresh counter, refresh backup, that will be coming out as a promo later on that you guys could potentially use in your deck as well. And then between this Utaha and the refresh, those are going to be the most popular 2 backups for the Saekano decks. All right, going into our second pack. Here we have some of our commons. And for our first double R, we have Ideal Girl Megumi. So this Kato level 3 is a very, very interesting card. Definitely plays into the memory strategy of the deck. So this card has a mechanic where every time she attacks, you can look at the top card of your deck and put it underneath her as a marker. And so the more markers she has, she gains additional effects. So while she has 1 or more markers, she cannot be targeted. If she has 2 or more markers, she gets plus 1,000 power. And then if she has 3 or more markers, all of your other characters get 1,000 power as well. And then at the start of the opponent's draw phase, if she's in the front row, you get to choose one of your characters and give it 4,000 power until the end of the turn. So the idea is you want to be sending this card to memory and then using a specific level 2 that allows you to swap this in from memory, and then you are essentially early playing this card, and then you get to accumulate markers every turn, try to keep her on the board for as long as possible using that 4K buff in order to make sure that she's not getting run over, and then just build up these markers and just accumulate this marker compression. Additionally, she has a climax combo with this gold bar right here, How to Raise a Boring Girlfriend, and it allows you to clock shoot your opponent's character when she reverses them. So it's a pretty interesting card. It is susceptible to things like anti-change bombs because she gets protection from being targeted, but obviously anti-change bombs, they don't target the character, that just activates when they get reversed. And so this card, really not considered a great level 3 by modern standards, but definitely an interesting profile that you could play in the set. And there's also a level 0 box topper promo that you could play alongside it that allows you to really up the strategy. And one more thing about this card, actually, this is like really far down the line, but I feel like it's worth mentioning, is that this card actually has legacy support in the third set of Saekano, which is not announced yet for English, but I figure it's just worth mentioning right now. So obviously this card has a clock shoot climax combo, which means that if there are no characters to reverse, this clock shoot ability isn't really do anything. But there is a level 0, I believe, card in the third set that goes to memory and says while it's in memory, this gains an ability to burn on direct attacks. So it allows this card to be useful even if your opponent doesn't have any characters for you to reverse. So just something that I feel was worth noting. You have the 1-0 Tomoya. This is when your opponent levels up, you get to bounce the climax back to your hand. I believe this one is a +2 soul, but I'll have to double check on that. We have just a level 0 clock swap Ariri. And then we have the anti-salvage Ariri. So this is a card that a lot of people tend to run as a tech card. It just has like a 1-of. So she gives 1,000 in front to level 0 or lower characters. But more importantly, she has an anti-salvage ability that we haven't really seen in many, many years. I think the last one in English might have just been Contact Collection, although I'm not 100% sure. But her ability is during the attack phase, when either player salvages a character from their waiting room, until the end of the turn, all of that player's characters get -3 souls. So this discourages the use of gate climax triggers, salvage climax combos, and potentially even choice climaxes as well. Although choice climaxes you are able to send to stock instead of salvaging back to hand. So against certain matchups, this could be a really, really good card to grab to discourage your opponent from using those advantage-based abilities that salvage from waiting room. Otherwise, they lose a bunch of damage. And in matchups where your opponent isn't running any salvage, you just don't search for this card, or you can just use it for its 1K back row ability. So really, really good tech card that does actually see quite a bit of play. All right. Actually, hold on. Did I just go one from each side? Yeah, I think I did. All right, it's fine. Typically, I would have done all of one side at once, but in this case, I guess I took one from each side. So we'll just keep going. All right. And for our next double R, we have the level 3 Uta. This is actually a card that even by modern standards, I think is quite strong. So she is an on reverse restand. On the turn that she's placed on stage from your hand, you can restand her by paying 2, discarding 1 card from your hand, and putting one of your other characters from stage into waiting room. And it's just a really, really solid ability. Additionally, she gains 1500 power on attack if you have another game or novel character, which, you know, that's pretty much the entire deck, so that shouldn't be too difficult to accomplish. You know, fake conditions and whatnot. And so this gaining power ability does actually activate on both of her attacks. So let's say she attacks, gains 1500, and then ties with the opponent at 11,500, and then restands, and then gains another 1500 on the second attack, allowing her to get over the opponent's character. So this is a card that I definitely think just is a very solid card overall if you're looking for a non-climax combo finisher. Okay. Here we have a 1/0 Aerie that I think is pretty interesting. So she has an on-attack ability where you can choose one of your other characters on stage with Utaha in its name and put it into your stock. And so typically in Weiss Schwarz, we have like this principle where once a card has attacked, once you've put a card onto your board and you've attacked with it, it's more or less done its job. And unless it's like a really, really big card, then you probably expect it to get run over on your opponent's next attacking turn. But with this card, you could potentially take those cards, or those Utahas in this case, and then you can just send them to stock, and it allows those cards to get more value than they normally would, since normally they would just attack and then get run over. But in this case, you attack with it, and then you can send it to stock and then have it double up on its usefulness. So this can be a pretty interesting card to run if you run enough Utahas in your deck in order to satisfy the condition for this effect. Next we have Little Love Rhapsody. This is a 1/1 event and one of the many cards in the set that goes to memory. So this card goes to memory and then you reveal the top card of your deck, and if that card is an event or a manga character, very important that it specifies manga, because the only characters that have manga in the set, or at least the only major characters, there might be some like side characters that do have it as well, but it's pretty much just Aerie as well as Izumi. If we take a look at these two. So these two have the manga trait. And so you want to try to avoid running this in decks where you have like a lot of cards that are featuring characters like Utaha or Michiru or Kato. While this is in memory as well, all of your manga characters get 500 power, and this is also an early play condition for a level 3 Izumi RR that we might pull later. So we'll go ahead and keep that in mind. And we have the Bonder for the Little Love Rhapsody, and when this is placed on stage from hand, you can discard 1 card to salvage this event back from your waiting room, as well as when it's placed on stage from hand, you mill 2, and if there's a climax among them, you get 3,000 power on this card until end of turn. Okay, so there's a lot of really notable rare cards in this set that go to memory, so hopefully we can get some of those. So we do have another very important archetype in the set is the music archetype. So Michiru and her band Icy Tail. I'm sure you guys are familiar with the term Icy Tail, as it a lot of players use it to refer to a specific ability profile that originated in Saekano. So that's the reason why some people call it Icy Tail. I personally call it the Michiru effect. But yeah, so a third archetype of cards in this particular set is the music deck, featuring both Michiru and her band members, and here is one of those cards where this is Rui Jared from Mushoku Tensei, except it activates on death. So a little bit slower. You do have to wait until this card gets run over in order to utilize that search. Here we have Utaha level 0. There's a coin flip profile that also lets you look at the top card of your deck and leave it on top or put it in the waiting room. I'm personally not a very big fan of coin flip profiles, but this is a pretty good way to get some extra advantage if you're looking for it. Okay, we have Aerie level 2. A pretty funny level 1 Izumi where she gains additional power for every copy of an Aerie vanilla that you have on stage. And for our SR in the box, so this is definitely one of the highest profile SRs that we possibly could have pulled in this set. So we got the level 0 Utaha. This is actually an SR of a double R, and a very, very strong double R at that. So this card says, when this is reversed in battle, you can pay 1, put the top card of your deck into clock, and then put this card into memory. So this is one of the really important memory cards that a lot of players tend to run in their decks. And after you pay the cost, you get to salvage any game or novel character in your waiting room, regardless of their level. So this has the selectivity of pretty much any character in the entire set. And in addition, one really nice thing about this particular SR is that it does have a very, very beautiful alt art. Obviously, we do have not just this beautiful background, but just the different pose of Utaha. This just makes this card very, very appealing to Utaha fanboys like myself. It's just a really, really beautiful card, and I'm really, really glad that we pulled it. This is definitely a card that if you pull this out of your boxes, this is a really great value card, and it's going to be a card that is going to maintain value throughout future Saekano sets as well. Okay, moving through our uncommons, we have Pulling an All-Nighter to Game. This is one of the best uncommons that you could possibly pull in the first set of Saekano. So, if not the best, I think this might actually just be straight up the best uncommon. It's actually better than a lot of rares. Some of us call this the toilet event of Saekano. For those of you who are familiar with Bang Dream, you guys might be familiar with that irritating girl event, the one with Arisa on the toilet. And they are just both very strong events, allowing you to gain advantage as well as stock. Or they give you searchability, or sorry, they let you maintain card advantage while also getting additional stock. Sorry, it's just kind of hard to arrange my thoughts. But so basically what this card does is you rest 2 of your game characters, and the characters that you rested cannot stand during your next stand phase. And then if you rested 2 characters, you get to search your deck for any game character, add it to your hand, shuffle your deck, choose any game character from your waiting room, put it into stock, and then put this event on the bottom of your deck. So this allows you to get a 1-for-1 search without using any stock. In addition, it actually allows you to get +1 stock because you're getting 1 stock from your waiting room. And the downside of the two game characters that you're resting not being able to stand during your next stand phase, there are ways that you can play around this by having characters that just remove themselves from the stage, so you don't have to go through that downside of them not standing. Because obviously if they're not on stage, then you don't have to worry about it anymore. So hopefully we'll be able to pull some of those characters and showcase that synergy with this event. In fact, I'm going to keep this event here on the side so we can come back to that later. For our rare in the pack, we have level 1 Utaha. She has an on-reverse climax combo with a gold bar where you get to put up to 2 cards from the top of your deck into your stock, and when she becomes reversed, you cannot use Encore until the end of the turn. So this is a card that is kind of seen on and off play throughout the first 2 sets. I was a little bit surprised actually to see when people were running this card, but it did make some sense. Basically what people were using this card for is just by getting all this extra stock, it lets you jam like a whole bunch more memory, and you just get a lot of compression that way. And then moving on to our next pack, and we did pull the Icy Tail Climax that goes with the Icy Tail Michiru. That Michiru in particular is a double R, so we will have to see if we can pull it out of our boxes. Not guaranteed. Okay, let's go into our next pack. Another card that we didn't mention earlier, but I do believe I pulled a copy of this, was the Icy Tail band members. A lot of the band members have a common theme where they have resonance abilities with the level 3 Icy Tail Michiru, so you want to keep that Michiru in your hand in order to continue activating these various abilities. So one of them is like, it's a runner if you resonate. This one allows you to get plus 2,000 power and +1 soul on attack, or at the beginning of your climax phase if you do a resonate. So pretty annoying card. I know Mike has played a Icy Tail deck in JP, and every time he plays this card, I just kind of sigh because I know that I'm going to take a bunch of damage upcoming. Here we have level 0 Michiru. She has an on-attack ability that gives one of your other characters 500 times level, and also has a top check filter. So a common theme between these 2 cards is that they both work with a specific event, which is Tomoyo's Proposal. The Ariri lets you search your deck for a game character, whereas this one allows you to look at up to 2 cards from the top of your deck, choose up to 2 game or novel characters from among them, add them to your hand, and put the rest into your waiting room. So this one's kind of an Aqua ability, while this one is a targeted search, but they do reward you for playing that specific event in your deck. Okay, we have the Time Machine Izumi. It's just a vanilla time machine. And here we have one of those music profile cards, so the level 1 Michiru combo. So this one actually is able to work in just a general game deck, but it does work very well in the music deck as well. So this is an on reverse combo with, I believe it's with a book, Memories of a Faint Love. So when she reverses the battle opponent, you get to choose one Icy Tail Michiru from your waiting room and salvage it, and then you reveal the top card of your deck, and if it's a game character, you add it to your hand. So this potentially allows you to get a +2 off of just a single copy of the Climax combo, although it is a little bit hard to get the reverse off, as this card is only 5k base and doesn't get any external support from like a secondary ability. So a card that you could potentially run alongside this is that level 0 Ariri from the trial deck that we looked at earlier that allows you to give extra power when you play a Climax. And here we have our Climax for the pack. I think this particular Stoxel, I think, goes with a level 0 Kato combo that's actually quite notable, so maybe we'll take a look at that when we get there. We have a 1/1 hand encore, although with a downside instead of a condition to get to 7,500 power. Her effect is if the character across from her is higher level than her, then she cannot front attack. So not really what we're looking for in our 1/1 standby targets. There is a better one that you could potentially run. Here we have the Izumi level assist. She has a Climax combo that allows you to give a character on reverse, top check 4, add 1. We have the level 0 Tomoya, which also interacts with the Tomoya's Proposal event that we looked at earlier, or that we mentioned earlier. We haven't actually looked at it yet. Here we have one of the other events that goes to memory in the set, which is the Eri Kashiwagi's autograph board, the Little Love Rhapsody autograph board, which is what LLR stands for. This particular event, it doesn't have cards that really synergize with it, even in future sets. What this does is you send the event to memory, and then you can search your deck for a game character. And then while this is in memory, at the start of your main phase, you can discard a Climax to get this card back, and then it allows you to potentially reuse it. There is a card in set 2, Saekano Flat, that allows you to clock bond into this event, but outside of that, this is just a generally decent card that you could use to have some repeatable searchability through your deck, as well as a way to discard extra Climaxes from your hand. Here we have another one of the Resonance cards with the Resonance package, where if your opponent doesn't have a full front row, this becomes 3,000 power, so already a pretty reasonable stat line. And then you can resonate at the start of the opponent's attack phase by revealing the Icy Tail Michiru in your hand, and it allows this to be a free runner as well. So you can have a 3,000 free runner if you have the resonance target in your hand. 3,000 power obviously being relying on your opponent not having a full front row, but a pretty good card nonetheless if you're playing the music deck. And then we have level 2 Utaha Assist as our rare. When you play a Climax, you choose one of your characters and give it 1,000 power until end of the turn, on top of her assist ability that gives level 3 and higher characters in front of her an additional 2,000 power. Okay, 3k backup. And we have here, this is the Tomoya's Proposal event that was referenced on those other cards. It is a 1/1 event counter that gives 3,500 power to one of your game characters until end of turn. And you can use this with those cards like the Ariri and the Utaha in order to get some additional utility or sometimes even pluses. This is the other 1/1 profile that I was mentioning that I felt would be better than the Michiru that we looked at. This is just the standard 500 power for each of your other game characters and has Hand Encore. So if you want to run a standby profile, this is a card that you could potentially run in your deck. All right, here we have the 2/1 Megumi. So this is the card that actually interacts with the same gold bar as the level 3 double R that we looked at earlier. So this one has both a level 3 killer effect, where when she attacks a level 3 or higher, she gets 4k1. But she also has the Climax combo, where when the How to Raise a Boring Girlfriend Climax is placed in your Climax area, you can discard a card and put this card into your memory. So this card will go into memory, and then this card will come from memory onto stage where she was previously. And that's how you are going to be able to get the level 3 Megumi out on your board at level 2, and then basically act as an early play and start generating those markers to build up the stacks on her ability. Okay, let's keep going. We have, for our commons, not anything too new. We have level 0 Megumi. She has the ability where on play you can choose one card in your hand and put it into stock. This can be pretty useful if you're in a situation where you have too many cards in your hand and you just want to convert some of those cards in hand into cards in stock. Also, if your deck is one that is particularly stock heavy and doesn't need a whole lot of hand, you can just proactively utilize this ability in order to get that extra stock. And for our next card, we have our next double R, which is another really, really strong one, which is the level 0 Utaha, where so she has what we call the Amagi profile, named after Amagi from Kantai Collection, where when you play any climax, you can pay 1 stock and then look at up to 4 cards from the top of your deck, choose up to 1 game or novel character from among them, add it to your hand, and send the rest to waiting room. Additionally, she has an effect where when you play any climax, you can return her back to your hand to choose one of your characters and give it 1000 power until the end of your opponent's next turn. So this is one of the cards that is really, really notable for its synergy with the All-Nighter event, because when you rest this card for the All-Nighter event and then you play a climax, you return her back to your hand, and that basically plays around that downside of not being able to stand during the next stand phase. You're just able to put this card back, reuse it on the following turn, potentially for like maybe another copy of the All-Nighter event. And this is just another really strong card overall. Between both this Utaha and the Utaha that we already pulled, these two are cards that are going to be maintaining a lot of value throughout all of the future Saekano sets. So these are the ones that you're definitely going to want to look out for. Just the utility on these cards is just really, really strong. Our next card is this level 0 Megumi. So this is the one that climax combos with that Stock Soul climax that I mentioned earlier. And it's actually quite a powerful climax combo. If this was on a level 1, like I could definitely see this being like an extremely powerful combo. It's a little bit awkward that it's on level 0 though. So when this card attacks, you look at up to 4 cards from the top of your deck, choose up to 1 game character from among them, add it to your hand, and put the rest into your waiting room. And your opponent cannot play any event cards from their hand until the end of their next turn. This could be a really, really interesting card to utilize against event-heavy decks such as Danmachi. However, because this is a level 0 combo, this does kind of run into the problem of if you want to spam this throughout the game, it's not going to be able to really kill anything just because of its super low power, which is why I said if this was a level 1 combo, it would probably be quite a bit better. But yeah, definitely a combo that some of us throughout Saekano's lifespan have considered picking up and trying out just because the quality of the combo itself is really good, even though the power level on the card due to being a level 0 is not that great. Here we have another piece of the music deck. This card is very simple, but also very obnoxious. So this card gains 2,000 power for each of your other copies of itself in your front row. So it starts at 8,500 power, and then if you have 3 of these in your front row, they are just all 12.5. And it's just super obnoxious, and there are additional ways to keep bringing out more copies of this in order to ensure that your front row is just 3 of this. She has the downside where if your back row is not full, that she can't attack. But by the time you're level 2, if your back row is not full, like I don't know what you're doing. So this is just a very obnoxious card, and again, very simple, but very effective. We have, for our next rare, we have this level 0 Izumi. When she's placed on stage from hand, choose one of your game characters, give it 1,500 power until end of turn. Very simple card, allows you to give some free buffing. But typically, by modern standards, if you're playing a card that just has this on-play power ability, it's probably not good enough. You typically want them to have some sort of secondary ability on top, like a utility or something like that. All right, we've been going on a while for pretty much like the first half of the box. So let's see what else we can get. Here's another really good card, the level 0 Megumi. So when this is placed on stage from hand, you can put a game character from your hand into clock. To look at up to 3 cards from the top of your deck, add any card from among them to your hand, no matter what kind of card. It could be event or climax as well. Put it in your hand and put the rest into your waiting room. So this is a card that, if you guys are familiar with Bunny Girl Senpai, this is a card that's been a promo for a while on a level 0 Mai. And that card actually did come out first in Saekano, and with this particular card. So still a very, very powerful profile that still sees a lot of play to this day. Okay, and then for our last rare of this side of the box, we have the 1-1 Megumi. So she has a climax combo that allows you to salvage a level X or lower game character, where X is the number of cards in your memory. And she has once per turn. When using an act ability, she gets 1500 power until end of turn. Unfortunately, because she is a 1-1 climax combo, not really the most effective card to utilize. A little bit hard to use. But yeah, definitely, that's definitely a card. I was going to see if we had the climax, but it turns out we haven't pulled any red climaxes yet at all. So maybe we'll pull it later on in our packs. Did I miss a rare? I might have missed a rare somewhere. I did miss a rare. Okay, my bad. I put the Michiru in the rare pile. I was wondering why we had, or in the uncommon pile. I was wondering why we had one rare missing. And so we did just pull the book climax that goes with the Michiru. So we have confirmed that that is indeed a book. All right, let's continue going through. Okay. Okay, here's another interesting uncommon, this level 2 Tomoya. So he has an assist ability that gives game characters in front of him 500 power and +1 soul. So the bond ability, not super relevant, but what is really important is that +1 soul support. Abilities that give additional soul to other characters in an assist, whether it's like a front assist or a global assist, are really, really powerful. It allows you to extend your pressure even on turns where you do not have a climax in hand, and for that reason I think that this card is definitely worth looking into potentially for some of your decks. It doesn't see widespread use, but it's definitely a card that I think is worth looking into. For our rare, we have level 0 Kato, where you cannot play events or backups from your hand while this card is on stage. If you're running a deck that doesn't play a lot of event cards or backups, this card is just basically just a free 4K beater that you could run for your early game. Although typically Saekano decks actually like to run a lot of utility cards for their level 0 line. A lot of cards that go to memory, a lot of cards that allow them to hand fix for the mid game and up the consistency rather than just 4K beaters. Okay, let's see what else we got here. We have the Utaha Ditch Climax Salvage. One thing about a lot of the cards in Saekano is that we have a lot of these really close-up pictures of these characters' faces, and so I often get mixed up between some of these cards. So, like the level 0 from the trial deck, where if you have one or less other characters, it gains 1500 power. And this particular card, because they're both level 0 reds, I tend to get actually mixed up between them quite easily. Here's the 1-0 event counter, the Truth of Icy Tail. So this is actually just a torch event, but for music trait. And so because it's only for music trait, it does only work with the characters from the Icy Tail band, but still a very nice card nonetheless. Unlike Torch, it does, it is basically Torch. I was gonna say unlike Hestia Knife, which is a card that I'm sure a lot of you are familiar with from Danmachi. Hestia Knife does have those extra conditions where you need to have like a specific name on stage, but it allows you to ignore color. This one is just like Torch, where you need to have just a card of the correct trait in order to play this. We got another Pulling All-Nighter to game. We can go ahead and put this back over here. And for our next rare, we have the level 1 Utaha Bomb. When she's placed on stage from hand, you can choose one of your opponent's characters in the front row and give it minus 1000 power until end of turn. This can sort of serve as a pseudo 1k buff. So, like I was saying earlier, this card is just a 1500 buff, whereas you typically want cards that buff in order to have like a second ability. So this Utaha, she is a level 1 bomb, and that can serve as your second ability, and then you can have her minus 1k act as a pseudo 1k buff, as it gets your character 1k closer to getting over your battle opponent. So if you want to run a card that buffs in order to get over opponent's characters, I would recommend running this card. This card's pretty good. Okay. For our rare, we have No Flags Raised Megumi. So this is a card that it gains additional power and hexproof if you have the level 3 Megumi in your memory already. And she goes up to a 6,500 power with hexproof. Notably, this is one of the only cards in the set that has the beautiful illustrations by Kurehito Misaki, who is the artist for the light novel for How to Raise a Boring Girlfriend. So, yeah, Kurehito Misaki's art is definitely beautiful, and it's kind of a shame that their art only makes it onto very few Saekano cards, as I'm sure you guys can tell. Bushiroad thinks so too, using it in all of the art for the packs and the boxes and whatnot. So very, very beautiful card, and definitely a playable one as well if you're using that level 3 Megumi. All right, we're getting close to the end of our first box. And we have our next double R, which is the level 0 Megumi Brainstorm. So she has a tap self-salvage Brainstorm, as well as an ability where once per turn when you use an act, you get to choose one of your characters and give it 500 power until end of turn. So this can synergize with her own effect, being able to use the Brainstorm and then pump 500. Alternatively, you can use things like a character backup and then give 500 power with that. And this is a card that within the first set of Saekano was a very high value card, as basically the best Brainstorm available. Although when set 2 rolls around, there are going to be other Brainstorm choices that you can run that synergize better with some of the cards that you want to run in that deck. For example, the pulling an all-nighter to game event. The later Brainstorms have better synergy with that. But we can talk more about that when the set actually drops later on. Okay. And for our rare, we have level 0 Izumi. On play, you can play 1 and put the top card of your deck into clock, and then search your deck for a cost 0 or lower game character whose level is equal or lower than your level, and put it on stage. So it's a Summon Riki ability. Not the most exciting, as it only has that as its only ability, but definitely, if you're looking for a Riki type profile to plus yourself through the early game, then this is a card that you could potentially look into playing. Alright, for our rare for this pack, we have the level 0 Michiru. She has pay 1, rest 2 characters. Look at up to 3 cards from the top of your deck, choose up to 1 game character from among them, add it to your hand, and send the rest to waiting room. So while it is guaranteed advantage compared to a Brainstorm, typically with this set you would rather have like double Brainstorm back row to maintain your hand advantage. Alright, second to last pack. And we have our 5th double R, which is the level 3 Izumi. So this is the one that goes with the, not this one, goes with the Little Love Rhapsody event that we pulled earlier. So when you have 2 or more copies of this event in your memory, you get to early play this Izumi at level 2. She gains 500 power for each of your back row game characters, allowing her to go up to 10,500 power. And when she's placed on stage from hand, you can search your deck for a game character and add it to your hand. So if you want to play like a similar game plan to Nisekoi, which is a deck that's been in the game for quite a while, but they have a very similar profile where it's an early play if you have 2 or more copies of a specific event in memory, and then it has on-play search. So you could potentially do a play where like you play an Izumi, search your deck for another Izumi, play that, search your deck for something else. You can keep chaining more Izumis or things like that to allow you to get more cards. Obviously that does use a lot of stock, but that's another potential use for like if you're playing a deck like the Utaha level 1 combo that allows you to get 2 blind stock on reverse, potentially fuels the copies of this Izumi if you want to play something like that. Oh, we need to finish this pack, actually. Hold up. And for our rare... Ooh, okay, good thing we did finish this pack. Good thing I didn't forget about this one, because this is a really, really, really strong rare. So this Ariri has an on-play ability that lets you give 2,000 power to one of your other game characters. And she has an ability where on reverse, when she gets reversed, you get to pay 1, discard 1, and put her into memory to search your deck for up to 1 game character and add it to your hand. And so this is a card that between the drop search from the trial deck and this one, you basically have to choose between having the immediate drop search effect on play, or if you're willing to wait until the next turn to utilize the cards that you've searched, because this card has to reverse itself in battle first. But this is typically the card that is chosen in a lot of decks just because it does go to memory and allows you to fuel those memory conditions, allows you to stack up that memory compression. So this is a really, really good card, and just like the Utaha and just like the 2 Utahas we looked at earlier, these 3 cards are honestly just the holy trinity of level 0 utility pieces that are going to maintain so much value throughout the later sets of Saekano. And there is actually one more that we will look at. Unlike these 3, though, in the Japanese version of the game, that third rare, or that fourth rare, I guess, is on the restriction list in JP. And so, because of that, it doesn't see quite as much play as it could, because you do have to choose between some of the other cards on the choice list, and players would rather run those a lot of the time. We'll talk about that card when we get to it, though. I'm sure we'll pull it between this box and the next box. We have Anti-Change Clock Bomb for Utaha. And for our final rare, we have a Clock Bomb for Ariri, where when she attacks, if you have 1 or less other characters, you can mill 1, and if that card is a level 0 or lower character, you get to summon it to your back row. So this card has the same effect as the Okayu from the trial deck for Hololive gamers, if you guys are familiar with that. And being a Clock Bomb with 500 power means that you are able to contest opposing characters of any power level. Typically with these removal effects, removal bomb effects like Clock Bomb and Bottom Deck Bomb, we actually want these to be as low a power as possible, because if they are too big, then this character cannot get reversed potentially against a lower power character and utilize their effect. And when we really want to be using that removal, this is very important. So like a perfect example of this is this level 0 Ariri. She's 500 power, but if this Clock Bomb was 1,000 power, like for example, if we pull out the Bottom Deck Bomb for Michiru, it's here somewhere. Yeah, so if we pull out the Bottom Deck Bomb for Michiru, this card is 1,000 power. So if these 2 cards were to battle, the Ariri would get reversed like normal and be allowed to use her effect. But if we use this 500 power Ariri instead and they tie, you can use the Ariri effect to send them to clock before they have a chance to use their on reverse ability. And they would not be able to use the ability anymore because it requires sending the character to memory. So if you're looking for a removal bomb effect, I would definitely recommend looking into this level 0 Ariri rather than the Michiru. So that concludes our first box. We got some really, really good cards out of this one. And hopefully we can pull just as well out of our second box. So we're going to go ahead and clean up and get into our second box right away. All right, let's promptly get into box number 2. So from that first box, we got 5 double Rs and 1 SR. Hopefully we can pull just as well in our second box, considering that our SR was a very, very good card. Let's see what we get for our promo. We got the 2/2 Megumi promo. So this is a 2/2/6/5. She gets 1,000 power for each of your other game characters. And she has an ability where at the start of the Encore step, if your entire front row is reversed, you get to pay 1 and you rest her. So it acts as like a pay 1 Encore of sorts. This is an ability that we've seen in other sets like Sword Art Online. And it's actually also in Hololive as well in the premium booster on the 2/2 Iris. So it's a pretty good standby target. If you're looking to play a standby deck, this is definitely a card that I would recommend looking into picking up, as this is probably one of the best cards that you could be bringing out at level 1 as your standby target. We'll go ahead and leave that right there. And let's go ahead and get into our second box. we've already gone over a lot of the cards, so we're just going to go a little bit faster through this second box. Uncommons. For our rare, we got the 1500 buff Izumi. Alright, for our first double R of the second box, we have the level 3 Megumi that we got from the first box. For our rare, we got the Michiru combo. Okay. Rare, we have the 1-0 Utaha. Here we got the Utaha level 1 bomb. So not pulling very much new stuff yet out of this second box, so hopefully we can get something. For a rare, we did get a second copy of the Eri level 0, another copy of that really, really strong card. Alright, come on. This pack is not agreeing with me today. There we go. Okay. Got the level 0 Eri Clock Bomb. And for our double R, we did pull another copy of the Utaha Amagi, another really good card. Here we have one of the characters that is just novel trait, Utaha's editor, Utako's editor. She does go by an alias. For a rare, we got the Little Love Rhapsody Bonder. And for our next double R, we have another copy of the Megumi Brainstorm. So far, we have not really pulled anything new. For our rare, we did pull a new card, though. This is the level 1 Utaha combo. She has a climax combo with a Stock Soul, where when she attacks, you can pay 1, and then you give both herself and one of your other characters on reverse salvage. So this is a good card to synergize with the 1-0 Utaha Bomb, as by putting the on reverse salvage on the bomb, you can guarantee that she gets the reverse using her bomb effect. And additionally, the Utaha gains 1500 power when you place her on stage from hand. And so with 6000 power on a Stock Soul combo, that's not exactly the greatest offensive numbers, but you can use the Utaha level 1. On play, you debuff one of your opponent's characters by 1000 power, and that allows you to close the gap between Utaha and your opposing characters. And we have once again pulled a level 3 Utaha Restander for our next double R. And level 0 Megumi. Extra Climax. And we got the Tap 2 Brainstorm for Eri. So when she's placed on stage from hand, you can top check 2, and then you don't get to rearrange, but you do get to get that knowledge of the top 2 cards of your deck. And she has a Pay 1, Rest 2 Brainstorm, and for each climax, you get to search your deck for up to 1 game character. So, not the most commonly used Brainstorm, as most players will tend towards the Tap Self Salvage, but this is an option if you want to play more Eri cards in your deck. So this is a card that we hadn't mentioned earlier, but this is the level 0 standby combo that goes with Koisuru Metronome, or Metronome in Love, as it is translated to in the English edition. So this has, when you play Koisuru Metronome, you can pay 1 to salvage a character. And so this card is actually not what we have, like, I guess, a running joke. We don't consider this to be the actual climax combo with the standby, because the thing is that when you're paying 1 for this effect, you are not, like, emptying a space for a potential standby target to come in, even though it is like a climax combo. So you might have to end up playing over something that's on your board. We actually think that a much better combination with the standby climax is the level 0 Utaha, as this, similar to the Utaha, allows you to get a +1 when you play a climax by using the Amagi effect, but also by returning her back to your hand, you get to empty the slot for Koisuru Metronome to put the standbyed out character onto stage. And so this allows you to have a back row of something like Megumi Brainstorm plus Utaha, and not have to have this card sitting in your back row the entire time. Okay. And for our rare, we have the 1/1 Megumi. For a rare, we got the Utaha Refresh Backup. So we still have foil and maybe one more UR to go. Or not UR, one more double R. What am I talking about? URs. Been playing too much gacha games, I guess. Okay, we got another all-nighter to game. Nice. For our rare, nice. We pulled the card I mentioned earlier that is another really powerful rare in the set that is on the restriction list, actually, for JP Saekano. So this is level 0 Izumi. So she is both a mill runner, and she has pay 1 and send her to memory to look it up to 4 cards from the top of your deck, choose up to 1 game character from among them, add it to hand, and send the rest to waiting room. So this is the other card that I wanted to mention that synergizes extremely well with pulling an all-nighter to game. So these two cards right here are definitely the best 2 synergy pieces in set 1, because both of them are able to remove themselves from the board in some way so that you're not taking that downside of the your characters can't stand during your next stand phase. So the Utahashi gets to bounce back when you play a climax, and the Izumi, you can rest her as cost for the all-nighter game event, and then you get to pay 1, send her to memory, and look it up to top 4, add 1. So both of these cards extremely powerful with this event. And I highly recommend in any Saekano deck you run all 3 of these cards. Like, actually, just like any Saekano deck you run right now, these cards are very, very strong. Except maybe the Icy Tail deck, because in the Icy Tail deck you do want to be running a lot of those music trait characters. But in a deck that uses like the other characters like Kato and Utaha and Eriri, it's a very, very strong interaction between these cards that you're not going to want to miss out on. All right, we're getting close to the end. We have the first, I think this is the first copy we've pulled of this version of Tomoyo's Proposal, as it does come with 2 different names. This is the 2/2 Salvage 2 event, and very, very simple card, but again, another one that allows you to synergize with those cards like the level 0 Eriri and the level 0 Utaha. So let's go ahead and just take a quick look at both of those. So here we have both copies of Tomoyo's Proposal, both the 1/1 event counter and the 2/2 Salvage 2 version. And for our rare, we have a 2/1 bottom deck anti-change bomb that also has an ability to resonate with Icy Tail Michiru to gain 4,000 power. So she can act as both a bomb as well as just a beat stick if you want to swing over some of your opponent's characters, or if you recognize that they aren't going to be early playing anytime soon and you just want to use this to kill their things instead of having to save it to deal with their early plays. We're getting into the home stretch, and we pulled the exact same box twice. Interesting. Very interesting. All right, we're going to have to show you guys the other 5 double Rs once we get into our final recap. But yeah, we did pull the same 5 double Rs in both of our boxes. Very interesting. We have a 1/0 Ariri for our rare. When she attacks, if you have a card in memory, she gets 500 power times the number of game characters you have, including herself. So this allows her to reach a maximum of 7,500 power on offense. And for our final pack, this should be our foil. So hopefully we pull something good. We haven't pulled any foil yet. All right. Let's go ahead and slow roll it. All right, what do we got here? Let's go ahead and pull it down from the top. Did we? Okay, no, this is a different foil. I thought it might have been the Utaha again, but like, no. So the card that we pulled for our foil is the 2/1 version of the Megumi that allows you to bring out the 3/2. And just like the Utaha that we pulled earlier, this does have a beautiful alt art. Let's go ahead and get a sleeve on that too, actually. All right, so for our 2 foils that we pulled out of our 2 boxes, we did pull the level 0 Utaha foil and the 2/1 Megumi. So both really, really nice foils. Let's go ahead and finish up this pack real quick. And for our last rare, we have the 1/1 Megumi. We finally pulled the way that you get the level 3 Megumi into memory. So this card has 2 abilities. The first one is, well, actually, let's start with the second ability first. So you can act, you rest this 1/1 to choose 1 copy of the Ideal Girl Megumi in your waiting room, and you send it to memory. And this is mandatory. If you do have an Ideal Girl Megumi in your waiting room, you do have to send it to memory. And the second effect on this card is once per turn, when you use an act ability, you choose one of your characters and give it 1,500 power until the end of the turn. And so you are able to use this the send to memory effect even if you don't have a copy of the Megumi in your waiting room. So you can just rest this and then do nothing. And that allows you to proc not only the act 1,500 on this Megumi, but also the act 500 on her Brainstorm. So this is the typical back row setup if you're running this sort of game plan with the 3/2 Kato Climax combo in the level 2 change. There is another way that you will be able to send this Megumi into memory, which is a level 0 promo, which we will probably be featuring in some of our upcoming gameplay. So you guys can get a look at that when we do that. But for now, we need to clean up and do a quick recap and also grab the other double Rs that we didn't pull, as we pulled the exact same box twice. So I'll go ahead and clean up and get right back with you guys in just a sec. All right, guys, we're back with the recap. We're going to go ahead and run through each of the 5 double R, well, I guess 4 double Rs that we did not pull. So we're going to go ahead and just get started with the 1/0 Eriri. So this is a kind of a similar profile to Erin from AOT, actually, where during your turn, she gains 500 power for each of your other game characters, allowing her to reach a maximum of 6,500 power. And then she has an on-reverse combo with a Wind Climax that involves some sort of bouncing back mechanic. However, unlike Erin, where Erin lets you get a maneuver gear back to your hand and also gains the bounce back ability, Eriri gains the ability to bounce both herself and one of your other characters. So this is an ability that we've seen previously in English Weiss Schwarz on the level 1 Tomoe from Bunny Girl Senpai set 1. And that's actually one of the many parallels that we saw between Saekano and Bunny Girl Senpai when Bunny Girl Senpai was getting revealed in JP, as Saekano did come out first. This is a pretty nice ability, honestly. You would like to have some really, really strong on-play abilities in order to combo this with. Unfortunately, in the first set, there aren't any amazing abilities, but there are some pretty neat tricks that you can do with this. Personally, this is probably one of my choices for a Climax combo that I would choose to play within just the first set of Saekano. I think that it's just a pretty solid card overall. For our next double R, we have the 3/2 Eriri. So she has an on-play heal effect and then a Climax combo that allows you to burn equal to the number of copies of the Climax in the waiting room. So that means that this can burn up to 3, but it also means that this card could potentially not be able to use its Climax combo at all if you don't have any copies of the Climax in your waiting room. So you do want to be careful about that. Because of that inconsistency on its damage and sometimes not being able to do any damage at all, this is not a lot of players' first choice for Climax Combo for the level 3 game. Okay, and I believe both of these... I know this combo is on wind for sure. I believe the level 3 is on wind as well. Let's just go ahead and double check real quick. Cheap knockoff childhood friends is... Oh, it's a stock soul. Okay, my bad. So the Ariri Climax line, if you want to play double Ariri combos, it would be the wind combo and then the stock soul for the level 3. Okay. For our next double R, another really strong one is the level 0 Utaha that we actually already pulled. And if you look at the difference between the two arts, you probably wouldn't be able to tell at first glance because this art is really, really nice, and this art is her face. So, you know, just following the trend of a lot of Saekano cards where it's just a kind of a close-up of character's face, and it just honestly makes these alternate art SRs just that much more enticing to try to add to your collection. And so, as I said earlier, this is a really strong card that is going to see use throughout future Saekano sets, so definitely keep a lookout for this one. Next, we have the 3-2 Megumi early play. So she has a 2 or less early play condition and on-play heal. And when she attacks, you can choose one of your other game characters and give it 500 power times the number of your other game characters until end of turn, so potentially giving a 2k boost. One of the neat tricks that you could actually do with this card is in the mid game, you can combine it with the level 1 Eriri combo to allow her to get her on reverse Climax combo, even in the mid game once players have started putting stronger characters on the board. And what I think is a really interesting thing that you can do is that once you've secured the reverse with the Eriri combo, you have the option to potentially bounce back the Megumi back to your hand to try to reuse her heal ability if your opponent is threatening to get rid of her. And that allows you to just reuse both of these cards on a future turn. So that's a pretty nice synergy between the two. Megumi buffs the Eriri to get the reverse, and then Eriri bounces back the Megumi to reuse the heal. For our final double R, we have the only blue double R in the set, which is one that we've been talking about pretty much throughout the entire video with a lot of these Resonate cards in the music package, which is the Icy Tail Michiru. So for those of you who have ever heard the term Icy Tail or Michiru for effects that send cards from the bottom of the opponent's deck to waiting room and then burn, this is where it came from. So we have the level 3 on-play heal, and when she attacks, if Icy Tail is in your climax area, which is a Pants Climax, you send the bottom 4 cards of your deck, of your opponent's deck, to the waiting room and burn X, where X is the number of climaxes. This is often regarded as the most solid finisher in Set 1 Saekano just due to its ease of use. It doesn't require a lot of other conditions, like the Megumi needs to reverse a battle opponent, and it has like a pretty big package that is involved with playing it. And then other level 3 climax combo. Actually, I believe these 3 are actually the only 3 level 3 combos in the entire set. So typically, the Michiru is the one that is the one that players are drawn to the most just due to its ease of use, and then you could combine it with other cards like the level 3 Utaha Restandard that we looked at earlier throughout our box opening. So there we have it for our Saekano double Rs. We've looked at a lot of stuff, both stuff that will be maintaining value throughout future sets and some stuff that will fall off a bit later. But hopefully you guys enjoyed this opening, and hopefully this gave you guys a bit of insight on what you can look forward to when playing Saekano in Weiss Schwarz. So thanks for watching, everyone. This has been Shizukatz on the Tressa Collectibles channel, and we'll see you in the next one. Coming up, we're going to have TD++, of course, giving you guys those budget improvements on the trial deck. We're not going to be doing a deck profile for Saekano like we would for other sets. Instead, we're going to be doing a bit more in-depth look on some of the synergies and strategies that you can do with cards in the current Saekano set with relation to the second set of Saekano Flat, which we already have confirmed for English. So keep on the lookout for that, and until next time, bye guys.